All right.
Boy, howdy, we got a lot of notes for you today.
Welcome, everybody.
Hello. Hello there.
General Kenobi.
I am drinking coffee out of a massive Santa mug.
I have my stylistic reindeer mug, which I keep bumping the desk. I moved my camera today, and I've got it on my shaky monitor. I need to fix that. So,
You absolute fool.
you have blundered.
All right, should we start being serious?
Fine.
Okay. Our very strength invites challenge. Challenge incites conflict, and conflict breeds catastrophe. A quote from The Vision, Captain America Civil War. The Galactic Republic has been the dominant power in the galaxy for a millennia. This has not been without its challengers and resulting conflicts. Without the Jedi Knights holding watch across the stars, the worlds that represent the Grand Republic would certainly fall. There were few who managed to bring the Republic's state to heel, but one such man, a Dark Lord of the Sith by the name of Darth Revan, did exactly that.
Between the Sith and the Mandalorians, the Republic was never too far removed from a time of war. Born out of a bellicose state of mind, the Republic's power ebbed and flowed from the brink of destruction to eras of peace that were unmatched and never repeated. The Republic was not always the far-reaching government that it is today. By the time the Republic's formation into the Galactic Empire, it had cultivated a long history of conflict, followed by space exploration and hyperspace mapping, followed by more conflict over and over and over again. Personally, I can't believe a franchise called Star Wars would have so many wars in it. It's baffling.
It's baffling. Oh my goodness. Welcome to Talk About Tatooine. I'm Andrew.
I'm Nathan.
And we are twin brothers here to bring you what's new in nerddom and give colorful commentary on our favorite subjects. This one's Star Wars. Welcome to our cantina. Grab a drink, get settled in as we set course for realities beyond our own.
Welcome to episode 96, everybody. Andrew, do you want to hear a fun fact about our episodes?
That 96 is just 69 backwards.
I've been bested.
Suck it.
Because that's not what I was going to say, and that's way better than what I was going to say. No, at our current trajectory, we will launch episode 100 on the first Monday of 2025.
Completely unplanned, by the way.
Yes, completely unplanned, and actually mostly by accident, because we get really busy on the weekends when we go out of town and things like that, which we actually need to figure out for next week, because I'm going to be out of town next weekend. So, All of that being said, today is December 8th, and we're going to be releasing this episode tomorrow, December 9th. Today, we're going to be discussing one of the most powerful Sith Lords in Star Wars lore, Darth Revan. But first, let's start with our starter questions. And we do have some nerddom news at the end of the episode, so make sure you stick around.
To those of you who are new, our channel primarily focuses on Star Wars and Warhammer. We used to talk about as many nerdy things as we could possibly get our hands on, but since then, we've actually narrowed down our scope into those two fandoms, Star Wars and Warhammer. Kind of the big one to fall off right out of the gate was Marvel, which kind of stinks because the new Marvel movies coming out look pretty good. I'm excited. If you are in the same boat, thank you for sticking around. Now that we have 100% viewer retention, let's get into it. Over on Warhammer Community, which is Games Workshop's the way they communicate with their fan base, they are doing an advent calendar called Grotmas, where every single day they are releasing a new detachment or sometimes entire army rules. It's been amazing, brother. Oh, so good. Here's the starter question, though. If you had to build an army based on just the new detachments, which would you pick?
Well, so I'm an orc player, and I'm still waiting for my detachment rule to come out. So I'm like, I have no input to share on the green front, which does kind of stink. But I was talking to a friend of mine who plays Necrons, and the Shatterstar Arsenal seems pretty good, brother. Getting a +1 to hit when shooting onto units that are on an objective and getting the assault keyword added to vehicles and mounted weapons sounds amazing. Especially when you combine that with the strategy, I think it's Storm Hostile Objective. You pick that as a fixed objective, you're automatically getting bonuses towards the primary way that you win the game, which is victory points. So it's like, it seems kind of like a no-brainer. The Necrons shoot pretty well. Could be really fun. I don't have the money to build a Necron army, though.
I totally get you. One of our good friends who plays Necrons, I have an abysmal win record against him. I mean, we're talking like a few wins, and they were like, I basically snatched them out at the very, very end. And it wasn't because of my skill as a commander. I'm actually a terrible commander. I'm so bad.
He is, folks.
Okay, I actually said K-Suns. If I had to choose any detachment, I really like, what is it called? The Hex Band, Hex Warp Thrall Band. Stupid name. I'm just going to throw that out there.
It is pretty dumb.
It's kind of dumb. I know we've talked about Magnus so much on the pod, but their rules look so good. So far, the scuttlebutt is that the new detachment, Hexwarp Thrall Band, isn't as good as the previous D, Cult of Magic, although I think if I want to build an entire elite infantry army, I would actually reach for the Custodes, and I'm pumped to see what they come out with. I wrote that yesterday. This morning, the Custodes thing came out, and I just glanced at it, and I'm like, oh, it looks so good. They came out with Solar Spearhead, and if I had actually read the whole thing, I would pick that one. But I haven't, so I can't really make an informed decision.
That's fair. That's fair.
Real quick, guys, don't forget to catch us live on Twitch and TikToks. We play live video games. Nathan is working on a Fallout 4 playthrough, where he is hunting for all of the achievements. I myself cycle between a few games like Helldivers 2, Space Marine 2, and newest to the list, Satisfactory 1.0. Fans of live streams saw me get the final achievement on Helldivers 2, which I now have at 100%, baby.
You 100%ed the whole game?
Helldivers 2, yeah.
Oh, so sick.
Not to toot my own horn, but I regularly play on Super Helldive, which is difficulty 10.
Wow, must be cool to be so good at things.
Yeah, I've actually needed a back brace because I usually have to carry my teammates.
There you go.
No, that's not true. I usually come in second, right behind one of our good buddies, the Combrew, over on our Patreon server. Him and I play a ton of video games together already, and he is a huge supporter of the channel. He either totally blows me out of the water with kills, or I get maybe one more kill than him. And I'm like, still counts, baby.
Technically winning is the best kind of winning.
Technically winning is the best kind of winning. I think I'm at level 99 out of 150. So, yeah.
I'm in the high 30s. I didn't play that much. With that, folks, let's transition back to a galaxy far, far away. We are talking about Revan today. We're going to be talking about Darth Revan's story from the crusading Jedi all the way up until the events of Knights of the Old Republic. So just keep in mind, guys, we're mostly covering Dark Side Revan. Revan has a hugely complicated story within the Old Republic and Legends. Some of it, actually, I would say 99% of Revan's story is Legends at this point. There is almost nothing that remains in the new Disney canonized Star Wars. So just keep in mind, everything we're going to be talking about is going to be Legends. We're going to start off with kind of setting the scene. The Republic is fighting the Mandalorians. This is also referred to as the Mandalorian Wars. Big shock.
Wow.
So just keep in mind that during this time, the Republic was fighting, not the Jedi. It was specifically the Jedi Council's stance that the Jedi not enter into the fighting, and Revan took issue to that. Revan forms his own crusading force called the Revanchist. I had to look that up on how to pronounce it because it's spelled Revanchist, and I don't think it's pronounced that way.
So I think it's actually a French word, because I went on and I Googled it, and first off, I didn't really understand that this was a word at all.
It is a word. Yeah, it's like an actual IRL word.
Yeah, I think it's French because it's actually pronounced revanchist, or revanchy, I think is what it was.
That's awful.
Yeah, I pressed the iterate button, and it was like,
it's cargo.
It's cargo, oui, surrender.
No baguettes and croissants. Sorry to all of our one or two French viewers.
I don't think we have a single French viewer.
Oh, well, then suck it, guys.
America!
No, I actually looked it up as well because I was like, is this a real word? How do I pronounce this? And it's actually defined as one who fights for the recovery of lost territory or status. It has a Webster's dictionary definition.
It's a real word.
And then it got me thinking, is Revan's name just taken from the root word of that?
Yeah.
It feels like that's what happened.
No, I think that is 100% accurate. I think that's exactly what happened. Which, playing Knights of the Old Republic as what, pre-teens? There's no way I would have figured that out. I was like, yeah, Revan is his name. It's a cool name. Sounds cool.
Yeah, 100%.
And they're like, no, actually, it's the root word of revanchy or revanchist. Don't you know that? I'm like, I barely know English.
I feel so awful about the pronunciation about that. I'm like, there's going to be somebody in the comments who'll be like, wow, these two idiots can't even read.
Yeah, okay. First off, the remarks about my intelligence, it's rude to say. That's all I got.
Thanks for the engagement, though. Anyways, these are a group of Jedi renegades known essentially like colloquially known
Dude,
to the
we are
Republic
killing
as,
it.
dude, I cannot pronounce that. These
$1 word only.
basically they were like, hey, we're not going to say Revanchi the entire time. So they basically were like, yeah, these are Jedi Crusaders. So also, just for a fun historical fact, and this is absolutely true, you cannot fact check me on this. Nothing ever bad has happened to a group that has called themselves Crusaders. Nothing bad ever happens. It's fact. So, fun fact. The Jedi basically assisted the Republic. They were like, hey, you guys are going to lose. You guys don't have any of your laser wizards around. We're going to help you out. That's not exactly how that went, but basically they were like, we're going to kill some Mandalorians with you. And a bunch of Jedi, including Revan and Malak, thought the Republic were basically going to lose with that Jedi intervention. The Jedi Council did not agree with this, so the group of Crusaders actually split from the will of the Council and begins scouting missions in the Outer Rim. It sort of begs the question, which came first, Revan or Revanchi? Revan wasn't always his name. Keep in mind, the naming conventions in Star Wars, so lame. There are so many times, even in the Revan book, where he goes by a code name like Avnar, and he literally looks at Canderous, who gives him like the fake name, and is like, that's my name rearranged. And he's like, yeah, it's pretty clever, isn't it?
Oh, I remember that. That was so dumb.
Same with his son. His son's name is just his letters rearranged. And I'm like, guys, come up with something different. So,
what is his son's name? Is it like Never or something? Navar?
Vaner.
I hate that. I hate that so much. That's disgusting.
Yeah, it's dumb, right? So, the naming convention is not super great. Basically, Revan may or may not have incurred some injuries as the Jedi. So, his original name was lost to history. He takes up the title as Revan, not as a title, but as his name. Again, that's just, we're not sure where he is. If you guys remember last episode, Alec's name was pre-Malak. He just added an M to his name to get away from authorities from the Republic. And they were like, we've never heard of this Malak guy. Sounds kind of like Alec, but there cannot be any coincidence. Drives me nuts. So that's where we're at. The Jedi have formed a crusading force. They need to fight some Mandalorians.
Real quick, when you said laser wizards, I definitely imagined a Jedi holding his lightsaber and going, Avidikadivi. Just short range Avada Kedavra someone. Okay, back on track. We're going to talk about the Battle of Sirocco real quick, not to be confused with Serrano, the pepper planet.
An actual Star Wars planet named after a pepper.
Star Wars names are so stupid. That's not the point of this episode. I promise that's not what the point of this episode is about. Okay, the Battle of Sirocco. If at first you thought, isn't going on a crusade not really the Jedi way? 100%. You nailed it. You passed the test 100%.
Episode over. Boom, bam, done.
The path of destruction that Revan and his followers would eventually go down was caused when the Mandalorians, led by Mandalore the Ultimate, actually a cool name. 100%.
Much better.
11 out of 10. Love that name. He deploys nuclear warheads across the surface of Sirocco and decimates the local population of Cathar. Okay, so there's nukes in Star Wars.
Yes.
There are portions of Star Wars Legends that are so dark, and I love them so much. I simultaneously really like kind of the wholesome-ish stuff we're getting with Skeleton Crew, and also really dig the really dark stuff we see in Andor and Legends.
Also, fun fact, this is only going to be one of at least 3 major disasters that happens during this episode.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So, first disaster, planet of Cathar gets nuked. Also, fun fact, Cathar are cat people. Star Wars, you suck.
Little kitty cats.
You suck at naming things.
If I knew any of the Cats soundtrack, the musical, I would definitely start singing it, but I'm not so far lost that I know the Cats soundtrack. To clarify, the Revanche was not at the Battle of Sirocco. Not exactly. Nathan, talk us into our next portion.
Revan gets a vision and essentially starts to get involved in the Sirocco conflict. After the annihilation of the Cathar on Sirocco, our vengeful peacekeeping Jedi, has a powerful vision that would forever alter the course of his life. The Revanche discover a Mandalorian mask, and when he, Revan, picks up the Beskar faceplate, he and his entire cadre of Jedi simultaneously trip balls in the Force and are enveloped in a vision. They all shared in this psychometric event, seeing past events. The Mandalorians, led by Lieutenant Cassus Fett, drove the Cathar into the sea, where they sought to kill them. A single Mandalorian stood between the Cathar and their executioners and pleaded with Fett that genocide might not be the only way. Fett responded simply and succinctly that the Cathar were being punished for their role in the Great Sith War, and that one outspoken Mando could die with them. This Mandalorian's mask is the one Revan held in his hands. The Revanche. It's really hard for me to not do that in a French accent now. Donned the mask for himself and held his purple lightsaber in the air and vowed to avenge the Cathar. Super peaceful, bud.
Yep. So at this point in the episode, the Revanche, he has claimed the title or name Revan as himself, and we are just going to refer to him as Revan. We're not going to try to do the French pronunciation pretty much for the rest of the episode. At this point, he is Revan. He is the Avenger. He vows to wear the mask, quote, until the Mandalorians have been defeated once and for all, so swears Revan. That's actually from one of the Old Republic comic books. You can see this panel of him putting on the mask, and he declares himself that I am Revan. By declaring himself as simply just Revan, he is saying to the witnesses around him and to the world and galaxy, I am vengeance, I am judge, jury, and executioner, and I am death. It is important to know that Revan goes by many different titles: Savior, Conqueror, Hero, Villain, and even Butcher, but he is known for being great at all his endeavors.
That's one thing Star Wars does, is they make Revan a super overpowered character. The power creep in this story is going to get kind of out of control. And we'll talk about that we'll kind of reintroduce the Sith Emperor a little bit in this later as well. We talked about him in episode 95, but he's going to come up in this one as well. Just keep that in mind. Revan and Malak lead Republic forces then against the Mandalorians. We cannot stress this enough. Revan is one of the most powerful Jedi in the entire Legends catalog. It wouldn't surprise me if he was actually a long lost ancestor of Anakin Skywalker. He's that powerful. It's hard to be because, Shmi had a Jedi Jesus baby, so, there's that whole thing, but
it would have to be through the maternal line somehow.
Exactly.
Well, to be fair, one of Revan's children goes on to become the Grand Master of the Jedi Order, also known as Satele Shan.
Oh, yeah.
And she kicks some serious ass. She is dope.
Yeah, she's pretty cool. With the help of the Jedi, the Republic forces are able to secure key victories and eventually beat back the Mandalorians.
I think we're on to disaster number 2. We're going to talk about the devastation of Malachor 5 and the death of Mandalore the Ultimate. Revan at this point has been pretty successful leading Republic forces against the Mandalorians. Even though the Mandalorians are clad in their traditional Beskar armor, which can block lightsabers, he's still doing a pretty bang-up job because they're not totally encased. They have weak points, and you can, as we've seen in Star Wars Attack of the Clones, you can just cut their off. Sorry, you're going to have to bleep that.
That's fine.
Revan, along with Malak and a trusted Jedi General, Mitra Surik, also the character you play as in Knights of the Old Republic 2, just for your information. At Malachor 5, we see the Republic defeat the Mandalorian forces in a way that might surprise you. Revan leads one part of the engagement, while Mitra Surik leads the other.
We get our second war crime of the episode.
War crime number 2.
All right, so essentially the Republic is split into two forces at this point. Mitra Surik, in charge of the Republic fleet, lures the Mandalorians in space into a trap near Malachor 5, using a brand new superweapon called the Mass Shadow Generator.
Dope.
Once it was activated, brought in all of the nearby ships into a catastrophic singularity, killing thousands of Republic and Mandalorians alike. This was so severe and so quick that Mitra actually had to sever her own connection to the Force to survive this, or she basically would have lost her mind and died from insanity, as the lives of thousands were ended simultaneously. Think Alderaan, but like think if Old Ben was like in the atmosphere of the planet when it got blown up, not necessarily just like nearby, right? So lots of people died super quick. She basically has to cut herself off from the Force. She does get her powers back later, but it takes years for her connection to the Force to basically regenerate. Knowing he had no chance of winning the war with his armies, because most of them were actually now dead, Mandalore the Ultimate challenges Revan to a duel. In the fight, Revan is able to kill Mandalore, freeing him from his dark influence.
Clarifying question on the Mass Shadow Generator. Is this just a planet-wide version of Darth Bane's thought bomb?
It is, but to my understanding, after reading Revan, the novel, and the few times they reference the Mass Shadow Generator, it almost sounds like, like video games when you can throw a singularity grenade?
Yes.
Think of that, but big enough to suck in capital ships. It does that, and because everything is coming together, they all basically collide into each other and are destroyed.
Okay, because the thought bomb only affects Force users.
Yes.
Okay.
This literally kills thousands of Republic soldiers.
Oh my gosh.
Like Mitra she has some explaining to do after this one. Does not go well.
That's awkward. Geneva Convention? More like Geneva's suggestion.
Am I right?
With his dying words, Mandalore tells Revan that it was the Sith that got the Mandalorians to fight the Republic. They were the ones that egged the Mandalorians on. They're like, we'll give you a war that you will love. It was all a ruse by the Sith Emperor to weaken the Republic and gain dominion over the galaxy. Classic tactics: undermine the government and then sweep in for the victory. In a brutal end to the war, Revan and Malak actually steal away the mask of Mandalore the Ultimate. Whoever has the mask has the right to rule their people. As you guys have probably seen in the show The Mandalorian culture has a lot of weird rules, and they don't all agree on them, but they mostly do. In Legends, the mask of Mandalore was the equivalent to the Darksaber.
It is Legends equivalent to the Darksaber, 100%. It's like whoever holds it has the right to rule the Mandalorian people.
Yeah, and so what Revan did is he steals the mask, and by hiding it away, Revan functionally fractures the Mandalorian people into squabbling clans and warbands. So basically, he plays his little Uno reverse card. It's like, oh, you've come to fracture and weaken the Republic. I'm going to do the same thing to you by basically ripping apart your hierarchy.
It's pretty brutal.
Because I have your mask. Got your nose.
Yeah, it's pretty wild and diabolical. Quick ad break here, guys. Happy holidays, folks. Today's episode is brought to you by our Etsy shop. You can see Andrew over here rotating his wonderful bottle. We actually just had to order more of those yellow Don't Tread stickers because you guys like them so much. So thank you so much for supporting those. We really appreciate it. But if you're looking for a great stocking stuffer this season, our shop has a variety of stickers and mugs that will bring an extra dose of cheer to the nerdy folk in your life. If you are listening to this podcast, you can use the promo code Tatooine10 at checkout for an additional 10% off. That is TATOOINE10. Tatooine10 for 10% off. Now, back to the show.
That's a good deal. I have to try so hard not to buy all our stickers because we're the ones who design them, and I'm like, but these are so cool.
And yeah, they take money to purchase.
They take money to purchase with that. I use money to then buy them. It's like, this is not a good business strategy. I can't be the one who buys all the stickers. Anyway, let's get back to the episode.
All right. At this point, Revan pursues the Sith who started the war. With new knowledge of an even greater threat, the two warriors, Revan and Malak, leave the Republic to venture into unknown space looking for the Sith that goaded the Mandalorians into fighting. A Sith Emperor who was strong enough to psychically dominate the Mandalorians needed to be found and stopped. Revan and Malak refused to return to the council and took the remainder of their forces into the unknown. However, Mitra Surik would stay to face the will of the council and actually was banished by the Jedi. Revan and Malak went to the planet named Rekiad, following Mandalore's instructions to find the burial place of a Sith Lord, Draymond II, or Dramond. I can't remember how it's pronounced in the audiobook because I listened to that a couple of days ago, so my bad.
Is it Dramond?
No.
No, it's definitely not.
At this point, they found the tomb of the Sith Lord, where they found a datachron inside of his sarcophagus. And this confirmed the tale of Mandalore and the Sith. This would also be the hiding place of the mask as well. Basically, Revan would have to revisit this with a group of Mandalorians later in his story, and he finds the mask inside of that tomb where he had left it, along with the datachron when he and Malak had visited previously. Fun little fact. Revan's story is basically like they take the same events and they're like, what if we just do everything twice?
This is getting out of hand. Now there are two of them.
Now there are two of them.
That could literally be the subtext of our entire podcast is, now there's two of them.
This is getting out of hand. Now there are two of them.
Because if you guys can't tell, we're identical twins.
I have hair too. It's just matted under the hat. God, that is awful looking. I'm going to put that back down.
Gosh, you are so ugly. Okay, Revan and Malak confront the Sith Emperor, and spoilers, it doesn't go super well.
No.
Now, with a rough idea of where they needed to go, the two, that being Revan and Malak, set out for Nathema. It's like, is that anathema, but just with the letters mixed up?
It is. It's anathema, basically minus a letter in the front.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. These names are stretching me to the limit. Like, Warhammer has some dumb names, but Star Wars, I think, can rival them pretty well for dumb names.
Have you seen that short of the guy who makes fun of Star Wars names? And he's like, my name is Clad Dingleboy, scoundrel from
Yes.
Tarsus 7. And you're like, oh no. You're like, that's ridiculous. And then you see people whose actual names are stupid stuff. And you're like, okay, you've got me.
Oh gosh.
They named the X-Wing pilot Porkins. Star Wars is not a serious setting.
So it's so rude. What's the fat guy's name? Porkins. Oh my gosh.
Give me Han Solo.
Oh, for reference, I'm not trying to be mean to Porkins. I'm trying to show that the writers are being mean to Porkins, because if anyone...
Porkins was a hero.
Porkins was a hero. He should be respected. Keep his name out of your mouth. Okay, dude, I gotta get back on topic. Okay, upon arriving, they find a planet with zero presence in the Force, which is very odd. The Force basically is in everything. So finding a null zone in the Force is kind of a big deal. It was then they learned of the Sith Lord Darth Vitiate, who lived after the Great Hyperspace Wars around 1,000 years previous. So he's an old dude.
He's around for a very long time.
So he probably knows a similar amount of Sith alchemy that a lot of the other Dark Lords of the Sith basically spend their entire lives chasing after.
And he uses some of this alchemy immediately. So essentially, if we go back just a few years, Vitiate basically gathered a ton of Sith Lords to him at the end of the Great Hyperspace War, because he was actually fairly young when this happened. And he basically told them, hey, let's all get together on the same planet. Let's do a dark side ritual, and let's all boost our powers so that the Jedi and the Republic never win again. Let's build an empire and then retake the galaxy. And a bunch of them were like, yeah, that sounds about right. So now, essentially what happens is he gets all the Dark Lords together. They start doing this ritual, very, very similar to how Darth Bane tricks everybody into doing the thought bomb. They're like, hey, this force power that you're about to use will kill all Jedi and the Sith too. What did he say? No, nothing. Nothing.
What was that second part?
Basically is like, hey, let's all do this kumbaya, and basically absorbs everything that the Force touches on the planet, leaving it completely bare. He literally killed everybody and he absorbed all of their power. This is actually what keeps him alive, because he's essentially absorbed the essence of millions of people. So super dark, very much a war crime, completely decimates a planet. Third disaster to happen here. Is that 3 world-ending events in one episode? Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and we didn't even talk. Well, we're going to talk in our episode in the future, Revan Reborn, where Darth Malak levels Terrace, which we probably referenced in the Malak episode as well.
Oh, you know what? I do have a 4th world-ending occurrence on here as well. Just wait.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So,
Goody.
Star Wars Legends really likes destroying planets. Anyways,
Yes.
back on topic. Essentially, they find records of all of this, and they're like, hey, we need to get off this planet right away. We need to find where we're going. The 2 Jedi eventually find Dromund Kaas, which is the Sith capital world, and spend a few months gaining intel on the Sith Emperor. Eventually, the 2 are able to find the Emperor, Tenebrae, who also is known as Darth Vitiate, and are overconfident in their abilities. Being snuck into the capital is how it's described as in the book, is basically they were like, yeah, we found one of their Imperial guards that just like let us in. And like later Lord Scourge enters the scene and he's like, yeah, so they're all psychically dominated. So like that was a trap. And they were like, we didn't know at the time. So that's essentially what happens.
He seemed like a cool guy.
Yeah. So essentially, the Sith Emperor was like, he told one of his Imperial Guard, and he says, hey, go let those 2 in, get them to my throne room, and I'm going to psychically dominate their mind, which is exactly what he does. With his new servants, the Emperor sends out Revan and Malak to find the Starforge and eventually attack the Republic.
Okay, so at this point, the Jedi, Revan and Malak, have now been turned into Dark Lords of the Sith, and they needed an army to bring down the Republic. They are sent, like Nathan said, to go find the Star Wars, find the Star Wars, find the Starforge by their new daddy. I was reading ahead, and the daddy part tripped me up. They are sent to go find the Starforge by their new daddy. The 2 of them follow the star maps on Dantooine, Kashyyyk, Manon, Tatooine, and Korriban. In this last stop at Korriban, that Revan is able to spend some time plundering the secrets of the tombs and learns much, much more about the dark side.
During this time, Revan creates a Sith holocron that is actually used by Bane later in time to create the Rule of 2, fun fact. Using the information from the maps, Revan and Malak traveled to the Lihan system. After finding the Starforge there, Revan and Malak declared themselves leaders of the new Sith Empire. I'm not entirely sure how it happens or how the book explains it, but it's something about them being far enough away or strong enough where they basically broke the psychic domination of the Sith Emperor, but they're still dark side at this point. They still have this like need to conquer the galaxy. So they actually interpret the desires of Tenebrae as their own, and the 2 are basically like, yeah, we're still going to conquer the galaxy though. But at this point, they are acting of their own volition. It's like an interesting line that the universe takes. They're not under the Emperor's control, but they're still doing exactly what the Emperor wanted.
It's like they got too far out of his Wi-Fi range,
right? Yeah, it's weird.
But so they just have to revert back to their last known command, which is conquer the Republic. And they're like, well, we can do that. That's super easy.
Yeah, they're like, we really want to do that. That sounds fun.
They're like, considering we're bad now. They both were like, we actually really enjoyed the whole murdering people part when we went on our Jedi crusade. We're just going to keep doing that.
At this point, they turned their remaining followers into the beginnings of the new Sith Empire and retook Korriban, reinstating the Sith Academy there.
Nice. The Sith forces began to grow. The Starforge was able to create weapons, armor, and ships for the Dark Lords Revan and Malak. Revan saw the awesome power and also corruption of the Starforge and used it sparingly. He even removed a small sliver of it and sequestered it away so his servants could study it. This small fragment would be hidden on Nar Shaddaa and would be known to Revan's followers. Okay, realizing that the Starforge was a threat, Revan used it only when necessary, seeing that it was that their over-reliance on the Starforge that would lead to the fall of the Rakatan people.
After a certain amount of time goes by, I think it's a couple of years, I'm not entirely sure on that, but there's a lot of dates and ranges, and this story is super wide spanning, so just keep that in mind, guys. Revan and Malak start the Civil War. Revan and Malak started their campaign with the raid on Forost, a shipyard located in the deep core. Pretty diabolical. Basically, this shipyard had actually gotten raided by Mandalorians in the previous war, and Revan and Malak said, hey, we should try that again. because it worked for them. Let's see if we can do it. And it works. Sith forces were able to launch a sneak attack into the facility where Sith troopers were able to board and steal Republic ships. These new vessels now joined the Sith fleet. So they were like, hey, we need more ships. We got some from the Starforge, but we're going to take some more from the Republic too. Because a net loss of ships, it was essentially a net loss of 2 ships for every one stolen, right? Because it's 1 ship the Sith can use, and it's 1 less ship the Republic can't use. So
Yeah.
quite a win here. But literally they were like, hey, let's do the same thing. It's classic like Revan Star Wars storytelling where they're just like, what if we do it again?
What if it happens again? I know Star Wars is very cyclical in its storytelling, for better or for worse. Sometimes it totally slaps and is awesome, and sometimes it's just the same exact story told over again, i.e. Episode 7, which is not great. We've talked a lot about that on the podcast. Okay, so large numbers of officers and soldiers actually defected from the Republic to the new Sith army. They were war heroes and were widely revered among the Republic forces for their leadership and prowess on the battlefield. So that's why people flock to them. They're like, well, I served with them. If Revan has a good reason to assault the Republic, I'm going to join them. Like, their loyalty was to their commanders and not the Republic itself. The Sith Lords were able to carve out a large section of space in the galactic northeast and all the way up to Hutt space completely to themselves. Pockets of Sith influence arose around the galaxy as well. The Republic kept the smaller areas contained, but it was estimated that Revan and Malak took over a third of the galaxy.
It's pretty wild.
Holy wow.
Part of the reason they were able to do this is because Revan and Malak know that logistics wins wars. Revan enters into a deal with the Zerka Corporation, offering them a trade monopoly inside the Empire for support in the war. Zerka makes weapons, armors, and even droids and other materials for the Sith war effort. Now, we get on to our 4th worldwide disaster. A prominent turncoat joined with the Sith as well. This is Admiral Saul Kareth. You actually fight him in Knights of the Republic. In a show of loyalty, he surrounds the world of Telos and held its government hostage. Failing to surrender, the strategic Republic world was completely destroyed by Kareth's fleet, reducing the world to an unlivable wasteland with millions dead, only allowing those survivors from the world to leave so that they may spread the story of Sith domination.
Think of it very similar to the way that in the Halo IP, the Covenant would come in and basically lay waste to the surface of a planet with jets of plasma literally turning the surface of the planet into obsidian glass. That is what Revan's Sith Empire did to Telos.
So the Republic had its work cut out for it in beating these guys back.
For sure. But the Jedi were not going to just sit back and let this happen. I mean, it seems like they sort of did for a little bit, but then they're like, oh, shoot, we should probably do something. So the Jedi strike back, and Basila's strike force, Bastila Shan, we're going to hear her name a lot in the Reborn Revan episode, they fight to neutralize Revan. They're like, we gotta cut the head off of this snake. This conflict would go on for an additional 2 more years. The Sith Empire was hammering the Republic, and it needed to turn the tide. In a desperate attempt to cut off the head, a Jedi strike force was sent to capture Revan and Malak. The strike force boarded Revan's flagship and cornered him on the bridge. In a selfish attempt to take the mantle of Sith, Malak orders his ship to fire upon Revan's flagship. Classic Sith move. He's like, oh, you look like you're in a lot of trouble. It would be a real shame if somebody threw an orbital bombardment onto your command bridge. And in this attempt, he actually hoped to kill his master and the Jedi aboard, and if his master was dead, who he was never able to overcome in a 1-to-1 fight. Malak was always weaker than Revan. Every time they went face to face, because Malak gets his,
because it gets absolutely just gonked.
Yeah, Malak would lose, and so Malak had to, like many Sith, both before and after him, resort to underhanded tactics, like turning on him when he is being attacked by the Jedi.
I ordered my own ships to fire on your bridge. I thought I could destroy all my enemies with a single glorious victory. I never dreamed the Jedi would take you alive from the wreckage. Darth Malak to Revan. At this point, the Jedi were able to wipe the memories of Revan, and the Dark Lord was no more. At this point, we do enter into the events of Knights of the Old Republic, where we encounter Revan the Reborn. And Revan's story, however, Revan's story is far from over. But that is where we are going to pause for today.
This is going to be a two-parter because this was a lot of writing for us, and we're already at the 40-minute mark. And honestly, there's not a lot of fluff in this episode.
Not at all. All right, guys, we've got the HoloNet news.
Thank you for sticking around to the end of the episode. Really appreciate you guys. All right, brother, give us your best newscaster voice.
It's time, everybody, to read the news. Nerddom news.
Welcome. It's time to read the news.
I don't do a very good Atlantic accent. My bad.
There is a comedian, I think it's Shane Gillis. He talks about the moment that the transatlantic accent was like destroyed. And it was actually when black people entered baseball and they were like, oh, look at this guy. He's coming up to bat. And then like whoever it was like Jackie Robinson or something, just like hits a ball out of the stadium. And they're like, oh, geez. Okay. Enough of that. We got to be serious now. Oh, I love baseball and I love Jackie Robinson. And just, it's the funniest joke I've ever heard. But that's not why we're here. Okay, so Skeleton Crew, are you caught up?
On Skeleton Crew?
Yeah.
Is it like out now?
The first 2 episodes of Skeleton Crew are released, and they are releasing a new episode every Tuesday. Very much, it is described as the Goonies in space, and there's not really a better description than that. It's very much a more wholesome-ish kids show. Also, Jude Law is in it, so, you know.
And just so you guys know, Jude Law is on Andrew's Hall Pass list.
I told you that in confidence.
You said it on the podcast.
I probably did.
Don't act surprised.
I told you that in confidence.
In a setting that would eventually go live on the internet for everybody.
Jude Law, Henry Cavill, Adam Driver. I should stop.
Stop while you're ahead. All right, tell us about Marvel Rivals, Andrew.
Okay, so Marvel Rivals is Overwatch with a Marvel skin on it. It's a free-to-play game that is out now. I think it released earlier this week. So it's going to be a little bit older than a week by the time this recording comes out. And it looks really fun. It looks super good. It looks so similar to Overwatch that it almost reeks of like copyright infringement, but just different enough to where it's not. But it looks super fun. I'm probably going to end up playing this. 1, because it's free. 2, and I just really like the Marvel IP. If you guys want to see this on stream, let us know. We're kind of cycling through a lot of games right now, so I don't know that we'll stream it. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But if you guys are interested and you want to see that, you got to let us know.
Absolutely.
But most of our nerddom news is actually going to come from the new Warhammer detachments that we mentioned earlier from the Grotmas Advent Calendar.
News from the Grimdark universe. Multiple factions have deployed new detachments to war zones from the Ultima Segmentum across the Cicatrix Maledictum into the Segmentum Solar. Man, talking about dumb names, we just moved from one franchise to another.
It's just one to the other.
A new tendril of Hive Fleet Leviathan is terrorizing the Imperium with a significantly higher concentration of warrior strain among their numbers. The Tyranids have developed a strategy of quality over quantity as they show up with twice as many warriors as usual. Members of the Ultramarines Departmentum Biologus have dubbed it the Warrior Bioform Onslaught.
Crushed it. 7 out of 10.
Dude, I'm keeping that in there.
I'm not redoing it. A detachment of Dark Angels has been deployed to deal with the threat with combination forces between the Ravenwing and the Deathwing command structures, forming a joint task force. The enemies of the Imperium shall fear the Lion's Blade. The Adeptus Mechanicus have picked up readings on a variant of the typical Necron deployments. The Shatterstar Arsenal has a 16% increase in accuracy across all units targeting other enemies on objectives. Additionally, we have noticed an increase in assault strategies from Necron vehicle constructs.
On the subject of Martians, the Adeptus Mechanicus is rolling out a software update for its battle groups, coded as the Halo Screed Battle Clade. Is that correct?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Such a dumb name.
Multiple Chaos warbands have been sighted. Imperial forces are warned to be extra cautious if coming into contact with verminous haze led by Mortarian's traitor spawn. Tatooine News Network receives classified intel from our sources stating that typically lethargic soldiers of the Death Guard have been clocked at higher foot speeds. Oh, Current versions of the Coda 6 Astartes have extensive amounts of data on the speed of elite Blightlord and Death Shroud pattern Terminators that seem to be out of the window of the miasmic cloud. Hiding their advance is also giving them more available speed. That's frightening.
Yeah. So the Terminators have scout moves now, and not only are most Terminator pattern soldiers really slow, but the Death Guard ones are even slower, even down to like a 4-inch move, which is nothing.
That's awful.
That's so bad. So having an additional scout movement, which overrides their normal movement, makes them much faster and much better. Whether or not this will take the Death Guard out of kind of obscurity, we'll see. Recent intel from our counterparts in the Blood Angels Librarius have reported increased warp activity surrounding incursions by the Sons of Magnus, specifically reports of visible streams of warp taint snaking their way across the battlefield, empowering the traitors and their sorcerers. The Codex teaches that whatever happened with the Legion cursed their battle line Astartes, turning them into, quote, walking buckets of glitter. That is a direct quote from a particularly surly, long-fang veteran from Fenris. The Emperor protects. Also, Deathwatch got an entire index, not just a detachment, and it's kind of good. I don't really have like a short blurb about, hey, what else does this cover? Because it's an entire army detachment, like an entire army index, and it's probably the most versatile Astartes army comp out there right now. I don't really think anything comes even close to the versatility of the Death Watch. They've always been kind of bad.
Yes.
But I think this might be a turning point. I need to really dive deep into it. And if you guys are interested, please let us know, because it's going to take us a while to review that, considering we have our episodes written out for the rest of the year. So it's going to, if it does come, we're going to probably do an episode on this in January, if it comes at all.
In Space Marine 2 news, we have Blood Ravens are stealing.
That no notes, perfect.
No notes. I don't know what is going on there, but Andrew, do you have any more data on that?
Yeah, I do. So after the Dark Angels cosmetic packs in Space Marine 2, Focus Entertainment did give us a sneak peek on a Blood Raven holding a chapter relic, which means that the Blood Ravens are probably going to be the next cosmetic pack to come to Space Marine 2, in addition to the calendar that we have for seasons 1, 2, and 3. In some other news, I'm just going to rattle through some stuff. Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim is going to be out in theaters later this week. I am really excited about this. I think this looks great.
I believe it's out now.
It is out?
I think so. Oh, no,
No
sorry.
spoilers.
It's coming out on the 12th, excuse me.
Perfect.
So yeah, next week. You were right.
Awesome. Helldivers 2, the only note I have is it still sucks. That game is great. It's actually up for multiple different categories in the Game Awards, although it did not make it into Game of the Year, which makes sense. It does not have a story. It is purely a co-op multiplayer shooter, so it makes sense that it wouldn't be up for Game of the Year, but it's so fun, you guys. If you haven't played Helldivers 2, I highly recommend jumping in. It's one of the games that we regularly stream because it's so fun and cinematic, and at some points just really silly.
It is. It is a non-serious game.
Speaking of the Game Awards, that is coming up soon. You guys can go to the Game Awards websites and vote on your favorite games in multiple different categories. So if you haven't done that, please do that. There's going to be multiple rounds of voting. I know I've put in a couple votes as well for the games that I've liked and the games that I've played. So hope you do the same. And then finally, I don't know about you, Nathan, but I don't think there's many Star Wars fans that aren't also Indiana Jones fans. If they were
it's a tightly overlapping Venn diagram.
Yes, it's exactly. If it was a Venn diagram, it would be almost a perfect circle. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle looks really, really fun, and it's another game I'm actually strongly contemplating playing on stream.
Same. It looks really fun. I've seen some gameplay footage show up on our reels, and I'm not going to lie. Looks kind of fun.
There's just something about punching the heck out of a Nazi
Ugh, just gets me all bricked up.
that's just as... As an American, I just think punching fascists is the right thing to do. It is the moral thing to do.
Oh, speaking of punching fascists, the first 2 episodes of Creature Commandos is out on HBO Max, and you should watch it.
Ooh.
It's pretty good.
I
It's
will.
a little saucy in some areas, so just keep in mind. But there is a character in there that very much enjoys hunting Nazis. So
Good.
it is very outspoken about it, and he's fun.
Because those guys. Both the ones from the 40s and the ones that are around now. Them.
Absolutely.
Punch them.
Huge thanks to all of our patrons for supporting this episode, guys. We are so thankful for all of you, Mike, Isaac, David, and the Calm Brew. All of you guys are fantastic. So much so that we're actually doing a game night tonight after recording tonight. We're going to play some Rocket League as a Patreon server. So hang out with us, join our Discord, play games with us, support the podcast. You guys are the reason we do this, and honestly, you've been a delight to have in our Discord server for $5 a month. You can support us here at Talk About Tatooine so we can do more awesome things like giveaways, gaming events, and higher quality content. It is due to your support that we can make this happen. However, we are a long way from where we want to be. So consider supporting us on Patreon. If you can't, watch us on YouTube. Please support us on Twitch. Do what you can. Seriously, subscribe and put some watch hours in on YouTube, though. It seriously helps us watch through these playlists. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps us out a ton. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching. Every single one of you watching is amazing. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so this video can find its way to as many others as possible. Until next time, may the Force be with you.